Hi, I'm Nate, and I'm going to walk you through this build, which combines a bunch of our Dungeons pieces with our City Builder system. I'll show you how the two biomes are compatible, and I'll give you some ideas on ways you can use these pieces to tell stories on your table. Let's dive in and take a look. All right, so this is our build. It is a 2-foot by 4-foot footprint. It is a free build, just using stuff with no regards to sets. It uses a whole bunch of our City Builder system, everything from Lowtown all the way through the original. And dungeon-wise, it's mostly focused on classic dungeon and some dungeon elevation bits, as well as some sewers pieces. And we were this was trying to illustrate some of the ways that you can integrate your dungeons pieces into the city. Honestly, dungeon pieces can go almost anywhere. And I guess the story is, this is like the shadier part of town, the Dockside area where you wouldn't want to get caught after dark. And maybe it's an investigation thing players are looking for, a Thieves Guild, or something. They're looking for some clues. So let's go take a look at what we got here. So starting up front here with this landing. So we're doing a bunch of fun bits here where we're using dungeon elevation pieces. So this is the bridge and the ramps to transition from the streets up here down to the water with the scaffolding platform. So this is kind of like a grand slip, maybe for the royal craft or something. So there's a really nice path right up to the streets here. Also maybe good for taking carts up and down and the like. But it's really nice to sort of integrate this. This elevation works really well in cities. So we're using that here, and then over here some more elevation, just connected using the gangplank down to the boats. And then along up here is a really fun bit. So this is just taking regular dungeon walls. In this case, we used the vaulted ones to make it kind of look, this felt grand. It was kind of wanted to look fancy, but everything else was just sort of plain. And we're placing them on the seawalls, and then I've turned stilts sideways, so they're the same 25 millimeter height. So then that makes a perfect little base for the dungeon walls, can transition us up to the streets and make a really nice area, a working area, dock, sort of the stone part of the docks before you get to the wooden docks. And then over here, we're using the grand stairs to transition down to the water, and then just drop the dock on top of those to kind of make it feel like it's going right out into it's a jetty right out into the ocean. So it really feels pretty cohesive there across the board. So then this feeds up here. We're going right into, this is like a big old warehouse, right? So we're getting off the slip into the warehouse, and we got a really sort of a fun gag here. So maybe the owner of the warehouse has some information, but we use the gag. He's got rats in his cellar that he needs the players to deal with before he'll give them information about the guild or whatnot. So if they go in here, we can pop this off. We have stairs down over here into the cellar. And you see he won't go down there because whatever it is, he sent the hired help down there and they never came back. So who knows what's going on down there. So we can use that as a fun transition. Over here, my favorite thing, I'm going to pop this out so I have a handhold. And we're going to lift off. This is all built on a battle board. Because there is so much weight on it, I went for a battle board instead of a terrain tray, because there's a ton of weight on here with the building. So we can pop that off and reveal the cellar layer. And if you were clever, you could cut out pieces of cardboard and cover areas with cardboard until the players expose them. So when you lifted this off, they would just see, right, these are the stairs down that transition up there. And so we're doing, the basement is all just dungeons, right? Transitions super well from regular building, basement made out of dungeon pieces. So we're using the castle straight stone stairs down, coming here, and then we have this is the storage area, and there's probably some sort of terrible critter. So it turns out it's not rats, it's something big enough to because who wants to fight giant rats, right? It's a heroic fantasy game. Don't make your players fight giant vermin. Make them fight something like really hideous, right? Maybe it's a land shark, or Zorn, or a small purple worm, or something that's just really scary and terrifying. So we're using the breached wall here to have a wall blown through the side of the basement, and that's connecting us into, we got some caverns in here. So there's an ancient cavern maybe that's been hidden. Maybe it was built when the city was built. There was old caverns here or whatever. And so we have some ancient caverns here with there's a snake mat entrance, and then I had this passage going off to who knows where, right? This could be a whole nother sub dungeon or whatnot. But the idea is you could connect this in, and then you could have a second build that you go to, or just don't do this at all, just have a dead end or something. But it was trying to show that you can do basements really nice and easily with the dungeons pieces. Particularly if you sort of add some city style clutter in there, it really feels like a basement. And on the front side here, I'm using the cavern's elevation blocks to kind of just fill in the negative space with stone. So it just kind of looks neat. I like the sort of sense of a cross section, and it fills it all out, seals it off nicely. All right, so let's put this back on and continue our tour. So I made sure there were little handholds because I knew I was going to fly this out. So there's spots to get your fingers on opposite corners so that you can fly this in easily at the table and fly it out. And then pop the block and then fill that hole. Joop. All right. So continuing on with our tour. Over here we have these alleys making this causeway, this big old bridge, and below them we're using the dungeon elevation. It's the bridge pedestal, a pair of them, so side by side, pair of them side by side, and then there we're using the bridge extension piece from castles, a pair of those, boom, boom, and then back to the pedestal, the bridge extension piece, and then that's on top of the cobblestone, the urban elevation piece from city. So it all flows pretty seamlessly. It's on the 2x2 elevation, half block, boom, and it makes for a neat bridge with some really nice lines, right? It goes across and then it lets us run the terrain tray. We're using the base here. We've got our breakers terrain trays into the river mouse terrain tray, and we're using, these are the breakers overlays to just add a little more froth and white water here to help this transition. We're also using that little one over here. You can't even tell, but those little breakers to just like make extra bits of white froth there. Somehow helps tie it all into the train tray. So anyway, big old bridge under there using the dungeon stuff, and then you can see kind of the base under here. We're using more dungeon walls in the back there to just seal all this stuff up using the dungeon walls. They make just great plain like brick walls. And then behind the bridge area here, we're using, this is like standard city builder fieldstone building with the Bridge of Valor in the middle. And the whole thing is elevated up on a double stack or it's a triple stack. So it's the dungeon elevation, it's the little elevation arch from the narrow elevation pack. And then, so there's a pair of those going opposite directions. And then beneath them, there's the 1x1 pedestals on there just to get a little extra rise. So that gets us up an extra bit. So I wanted to be further above street level to make this building feel, this is sort of the watchtower, right? Trying to make it feel tall and imposing. And it lets us see these nice arches from out there. So it looks really kind of elegant and decorative. Kicks up the Bridge of Valor even higher. So I really like this sort of the triple arches, right? Arch going into the Bridge of Valor, going to another arch. And then on the side, this lets us line up really nicely with using the same little 1x1 pedestals and the stairs there, the same dungeon stairs to get us this nice little staircase up. Poof, and it lines up perfectly with the door. Whoop. All right, continuing along across the bridge here, we get to our plaza area. So it's standard alleys and sidewalk pieces with some city clutter. And then over here, this monument is built using mostly dungeon pieces. So we're using the LED floor pieces, right? So we can put our JST sockets here. So we have these cool fire pots that look like big outdoor braziers. And then this is the dread pedestal, using the daises around it to make it look like a monument, right? Big open space for the monument. And then this is our dwarven hero reliquary from our reliquaries line, which makes for a really neat monument. In this case, we have a D20 from RG Dice Boutique that she made for us to match this set. But you could put any sort of cool object of power on there if you wanted. But it felt like maybe this is the shady part of town. Maybe there's gambling here, so this is the god of gamblers, the D20. And we'll gotta put the 20 side up, right? All right. So really great decor, right? You can put a lot of the dungeon freestanding bits you can scatter about and use as decor, not only in your city, but kind of anywhere. So like this dread pedestal, you could kind of pop it just about anywhere and it's going to look cool. So then working our way back down to the seafront, we're doing the same gag here with the dungeon walls and the sea walls, propping them up to make a nice transition. So there's a playable area here above the water, and then it transitions up to the sidewalks. And then on the side here, we have the same little half elevation block, the 2x2 cobblestone block with just a dungeon floor on top of it. So it feels seamless. And that transitions us out to our scaffolding in a dock mode, in high mode with the pilings. And then over yonder, we have more docks connecting into, this is the dungeon double door arch. So we've taken the city doors, so like the barn doors, to put it in there, and then put this up against the side of the building here. So this is like a loading dock, kind of like the raised stone area. So you'd get your cargo off here and then open it up, and we'll see what goes in over there. So we have this little warehouse right in the corner. Let's come around and take a look. So if we pop this thing off, and now you can see the double doors open up into this little warehouse area here, right? So we've got stairs up. So once again, we're just using, these are just dungeon pieces here, we're using to make like a cellar level, rustic wood on top, dungeon down before, and using the double doors to transition out. And by you putting those city doors in there, it helps city it up and make it feel a little more integrated. Similarly, we put the city lantern in the, I'm using again the vaulted wall to just make it kind of decorative, so draw some attention to the LED element. You could just use the plain classic wall, but I liked the arches and using that city lantern there to city it all up. All right. Pop you back. Boom. All right, so heading over here to this building, pretty standard Tudor upper. We're using urban elevation to get us up here with some stairs through the nice noble store here. And then below, we're doing the same gag again. The lower area is built out using just dungeons here. So we have the diagonal door in the corner, which is very satisfying, right? It's a little corner door action. Regular dungeons pieces. Then here, kind of the fun bit is this is a narrow dungeon passage built in line with everything else. It gives us this recessed nook, and then I put a door at the end of it, so it's another doorway in. In this case, we have this sort of the anvil there and the weapon rack, so this becomes like a little, could be a blacksmith's working area. So people can come by and stop, get their horseshoes fixed or whatever. The blacksmith could work there. So lots of different ways you can use dungeon pieces to build like a foundation for any of your upper buildings. Broop. Put you up with that. All right, so then coming back here, we have our final building, which is this big old temple. So the first thing we did is the base here is, it's on a bunch of elevations. So you can use elevation blocks. In this case, we're using the narrow, the arches just for the kind of the stonework, the curving of the stonework. But you can use any elevation bits, and they're built in line with the rest of the streets so that it gets us the exact height to have 2 levels of daises here. So I wanted to have a big stepped like plaza area spilling out to the plaza using the daises. So we've got sinister daises, 2 layers of sinister daises. Because the color palette in the rest of this city, it's very it's red and warm. Wanted this building to pop a lot. So we're using the sinister daises because they're blue and dark. So they would really pop. And they've got some green in there that would offset with the roof. So it all kind of ties together. So 2 layers of sinister daises. Out front, this is the Gargoyle Guardian topper on. It's the sinister version of the dungeon LED floor socket. So that guy's out front with the glowing eyes to say, okay, this is like a magic temple where you got glowing Gargoyle Guardian there. We put these are the metal vault doors from the dungeon into the double high fieldstone wall here to kind of tie it all together. And then we're using the big sinister pillars here. Oh, this guy wandered off. Right, so they are creating this pediment look for the front using the ancient dungeon pillars in sinister, so it ties it all together. They're slightly short because they're on dungeon scale versus surface scale. So on the top here, this is the solid wall insert for the arch walls in sinister. So just used a pair of those just to level this off so everything would be the right height. Also down here, this is the Ghostfire torch, right? So giving that cool teal light that would, once again, working with our green color scheme here to make this temple feel really cohesive. And then we're using the little gargoyle biscuit fillers to kind of complete the look, and a little steeple on top. So pretty fun how you can use this dungeon scatter, the dungeon daises, dungeon elevation to really kind of dress up your city, give you some different heights, right? This is giving us an extra little bit of, it's not a full building's height, but it gives this thing an extra little height so it kind of towers over the other buildings around while we still have some 2-story buildings nearby. It's still a little taller. So lots of tricks, lots of ways you can use dungeon elevation, dungeon daises, and dungeon scatter to decorate your city. But we still have some more. So let's say the players had they cleared out the rats for the merchant over in the warehouse, and he said, "Hey, I think the thieves are using the sewers." So over here, we have this sewer grate here. So if the players investigate, it's easy enough to pop it open. We have the little the texture patch underneath there, right? We're just using the bottomless pit texture patch, so we have a nice little spot of blackness to set it goes down. And if they descend down into the basement, we can lift this off. So I built this all on a battle board because it's got a little bit of weight to it. So it'd be easier to lift off. So we're just going to pop this off, do some exploration. So the players can descend down over here. We've got this little, right, the ladder wall. And they have this big, long, open sewer area. So actually, we're going to lift this out. So I gave myself some handholds so that I could get this off because this one is pretty heavy. So we're going to lift this off as they explore. And it really is exciting for your players when you lift stuff off and have that discovery for them on the table. It's very fun. And that was built on a battle board because it's just got a lot to it. So big open sewer area they can explore. They can check it out. There's another ladder wall going up. This goes up into the temple. So maybe maybe there's a secret entrance into the temple thieves are using, or maybe they've got a contact inside. There's some members of the Thieves Guild in the temple working there. And over here, it's pretty easy to discover a poorly concealed hidden door, right? So you can pop this plug out, pretty easy to find. And this area is built just using standard dungeon pieces right up against the sewers. And so it's one little room, little passageway using the narrow passages door. And then we get into a little room here with a bed. And the theory here is that there's a little peephole in the wall. And maybe it's something the players noticed when they came down the ladder if they were really astute. And there's a lookout here, right? So someone's always stationed here. That's why the bed's here, to keep an eye on the entrance here to see if anybody is coming down. They can alert the guild if something is trouble, use some sending stones or something if they see somebody who's not a guild member coming into the sewers. So cool little hidden chambers back here. And you could pre-build this on terrain tray and fly it in as the players discover it, or cover it with cloth or cardboard or something to stop the metagaming if you needed to. Pop this back in. And then the other poorly concealed little portal is over here. This one, right? So we could also pop this out, and players can pop through this into another room. Once again, just built using the dungeon pieces against the back of the sewers. We've got a room here with a bed and table, so maybe this is like a safe spot. Like if someone needs a place to hide out, to hole up while they're, the law is on their tail, they can hide out in here. Safe room for the Thieves Guild members. And then the back sides of these walls are just forming the outside of our build there. And then they can continue on. This area is open. So if they pop through here, let's do this. We're going to pop this guy off first. All right, so we're going to pop open this warehouse. So we can pop this. We're just having one street tile covering that area. So what's fun over here is this wall, the players can discover there's a secret door here. This is probably more hidden than the other door. It's a true secret door. And this connects into the basement of that warehouse where before. So this is probably where they've got shipments coming in, and they drop them off. It looks like normal, and then they can smuggle stuff. Once they're in the warehouse, they can then smuggle their secret goods out through the secret door into the headquarters, and nobody knows, out from the watchful eye. So a couple of different ways they could get in here, either through the sewer grate or through this secret door if they find it, because they could find it if they're investigating the warehouse sooner. So it's kind of fun to have some sandboxy options for the players. And then this continues, right? So we got another door here. So this continues under the next part thing. So once again, built on a battle board, so we can fly it out really easily. I left little handholds there so I can get to it. All right, so this transitions them into the actual center of the Thieves Guild. So we have a little narrow passage here with the alcove. Maybe there's some sort of trap here. That's why else would you have this fancy little alcove? And this kind of opens into, this is the main area where they're sort of do training. Maybe they make poisons over here. There's some weapons training or lockpicking where they've got some table where they can eat or gamble or whatnot. Connects out over here. We have a couple of fun things over here. So there's some stairs down in this corner. So you can use that to have it go down to a dungeon or another level, more areas for them to explore beyond this map. As well as there's over here, guess what? Another secret door. So this one connects. It goes through the arches that are under this building. So maybe they could take a boat out here or whatever. So it's yet another way in and out of the guild, another way the players could perhaps find their way in. And then over here, we're using it's another secret door bookcase just because, it's probably pretty suspicious having a bookcase in this dungeon area, but it's just fun gag, right? So they go through the secret door bookcase into another room, and we got some tools and stuff here. And then we're using the water texture patch under the grate to say, okay, maybe we're near the ocean. So maybe they could flood them out if they need to or something. And then our final little bit here is we got some stairs coming up, and those lead to a secret door here, gets them out to the dockside. So lots of different ways in and out from the guild. So a lot of different ways the players could discover how to get in here and maneuver around and have a fun chase or a fight kind of going through all these different areas. But it's all just using plain old dungeon pieces underneath the city as an infrastructure under the city. And for building, what I recommend is I kind of sketched out where the buildings were. I laid out with stilts. I just laid out where the terrain trays were going to be, or the battle boards. Kind of had an idea where my buildings were going to be. Then I pulled them off. I built this under, kind of knew where I wanted to connect, dropped those back on, then built the buildings on top in that order. but tons of potential for dropping dungeons into your city, either as the basis of the building, as decor, bits of elevation, and the like. So hopefully this has given you a great idea of some of the many ways you can combine dungeons and cities. For more building tips and tricks, check out the rest of our YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and think about subscribing. If you want to dive deeper, hop onto our forums or join our Discord. We'd love to see you there in the community. Hopefully this will have given you a bunch of new building ideas. And now it's back to the anvil.